Welcome to the Zveda podcast. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Lorena.
We're a community for women by women. We're here to help each other rise to impact generations.
Hi, ladies. Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you again. Jamie and I are so excited to walk through just another great piece of content as we're going through our series of core values right now.
So excited to be here and ready to dive in.
Yes, we are. So happy day to each of you. So we wanted to kick it off with a trending topic. I was reading an article this past week that was really interesting as we just recently in August celebrated the 100th year anniversary of women's right to vote. So the 19th Amendment, which is great.
Right.
That's so thankful to have that right in our nation. Just what a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, this article was talking about the First Lady. So Melania Trump's just kind of her perspective. And the article was talking about how she has a unique view, not only as our First Lady currently, but she is a woman who I think is the only First Lady in our nation's history that was not born in America or in like Great Britain. And she actually grew up in a communist nation. And so she grew up not actually having the right to vote and being in a nation where, women had very different rights than some of the ones that we enjoy today here in America.
Right.
So it just was kind of something that stuck out to me this week. I was like, wow, she has an interesting perspective to bring to our nation and to women as a role model in this country. I thought it was interesting. Anything you want to add to that, Jamie?
No, I think that's great. I think it's just important for us to realize and recognize that there were many women that went before us that fought for that right, and to not take it for granted. I know I have in the past, just not even thinking about it and what women went through to make sure that we had a voice. And so no matter what side of the aisle you're on, make sure you vote, because a lot of people went before us. A lot of individuals like Melania, as an example, came from other countries where they were not even recognized as to have a voice of any kind. Right. So don't take that for granted, ladies. Definitely see that as high value and a gift that we have. So make sure that your voice is heard.
Yeah, that's great. So to transition now into our main section of content, we're going to be going through our third core value, which is that we want to give women the courage to embrace the uniqueness of a woman's heart.
Oh, so good. Because a lot of times we just think we can't.
Why is that, Jamie?
Just we can't be women. If you act like a woman, being a woman is weak.
Yeah, I've definitely had those thoughts go through my mind at some point in different points in my life. Yeah. So we want to kind of break that down a little bit. And so we've got two main parts to this main section of content. The first part is we want to talk through the unique facets of womanhood and what kind of wiring that we all have to some level as women. And then after that, we want to transition into the difference between masculine and feminine traits and how every woman has a unique kind of mashup of some masculine traits and some feminine traits. And that's just kind of the uniqueness of how we're all created very individually.
So it makes us, right?
Yes, that's right. So kind of the first piece, as we're talking about, unique facets that women have, is that women, we have a deep desire to be beautiful and to be recognized as such. I mean, I'm just thinking of just even this past week, my mom took my nieces to Costco, one of her favorite places, and they had Halloween costumes already out. And my nieces are 5 and 2.5. And they were both like picking out princess costumes. And then they put them on when they got back home, a beautiful light pink princess dress. And then my youngest niece, who's 2.5, she had a beautiful light blue one, and was just twirling in front of the camera and wanted to have, pictures taken of them and to hear that they're beautiful. And so I think that's so unique to women. We want to be recognized for our beauty.
Right. Well, that's why we spend so much on hair and hair color and makeup and products and skin and nails. And I mean, it's just that piece of us, no matter what our traits are, that, we want to feel beautiful.
Yeah, it's more than how we look, but we want to feel beautiful, which I just think of like personal fitness as a great piece of that. Like that not only impacts, how you look, but also how you feel and energy levels and all of that.
It's almost like wanting to feel treasured, in a big way. And I think, I've known so many, you have too, just so many different types of women.
Yeah.
So some that like the outdoors, where some wouldn't dare be caught, in a tent. But at the core of all those differences, just that desire to, I want to hear that I'm a beautiful person. Yeah. No matter what I like to do, no matter what I look like on the outside, I want to feel treasured, honored.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good, Jamie. The second piece here that we have is that women desire to be cherished. So like what you just said, Jamie, we desire to feel treasured, honored, cherished. And part of that, wanting to feel cherished is like a reassurance from other people that we are loved. I know for me, like growing up, my relationship with my dad, I was very thankful to have a very strong and healthy relationship with my dad. And a lot of times growing up, he would just tell me, Lorena, you're beautiful and I love you. I care for you. And just that recurring verbal expression of his love for me as his daughter was really sweet. And I think can be one example of that reassurance. Jamie, do you have an example of kind of just like reassuring, how people reassure you of their love for you?
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, for me, same, I was very blessed to grow up with a father that saw my value and told me often and was there. So I knew no matter what, he loved me. He cherished our time together. We would often go and do a lot of outdoor things. So he would take me fishing and shrimping. He was a shrimper, so that was very fun and unique. And so he would take me on the boat, and he was very patient and caring. And, I think too of stories that I hear of women that didn't grow up with that in their household. I have friends that did not grow up with that in their household from a father figure, but they may have received it from an uncle or a close friend of the family, even their mothers. But it's also very, I think, eye-opening to take some time to ask your friends, know how they grew up and what they received and how, and you can often uncover areas that you can be that encourager,
that voice of reassurance. And,
not to get us too off track, but it just really, as you were speaking, I was thinking of, I've been able to be that for someone else, be that encourager, tell someone they're beautiful and loved and cherished. And I think that's really important because that is a core, I believe that's how God created us. That's core to who we are.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I think it just, it's that like grounding that our heart needs. Cause a lot of times as life comes at us, kicking, screaming, swinging, that's like, there tends to be, this natural drift. And so those words of reassurance can just bring our hearts back grounded to what really is true, that we are loved and we are cherished. I agree too. Like it can come from a natural father. It can come from a father figure, whether it's in your family or not, or a really close friend, even a mother, can be that voice of reassurance. And it's, I just think it is a very unique facet of women, that we desire that.
I wanted to touch on as well. A part of that is this, I often hear it, especially young women that are looking to date, but that I wish I would be pursued.
Okay.
This desire for pursuit.
Yes. Yeah. And it's deep in all of us.
Yes. And I think that aligns with that, wanting to know that I'm cherished and and beautiful and honored, but there's this desire, no matter what type of personality that I have, to be pursued.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because our hearts are worth that. They're worth being pursued. That's really good, Jamie. I think another unique facet of women is that our brains are wired very differently than the male brain. And both are good, just serving different purposes and different functions. I think uniquely for our brains, we can multitask pretty well. Or it's like we can have thoughts that we're constantly thinking, right? Like some
multiple tabs open,
right?
And thinking about each one as they're open.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. I mean, I do that a lot. And it's funny that, my boyfriend, a lot of times I'll ask him like, hey, like, what are you thinking? What's on your mind? And he'll be like, oh, I'm not thinking. And that is a difference. Like there will be literal points in time where men are not thinking anything. Like they're just resting or, present. And for women, I think that's just sometimes hard to understand because our brains are, they're always going. So, I think that's just one key difference. I
think my brother shared with me once, I have a younger brother, and he's like, I can literally, when I'm asked or I'm watching television, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm
just fully there.
I'm watching the show. Like I'm not. And whereas I know when I watch a show, I'm watching the show and then I'm thinking about, laundry and what's the schedule for tomorrow and things I don't need to forget about. And we would joke about, a waffle, because a waffle has
it's compartments
and has little squares. He's like, you know how the syrup, fills each square. Like I can literally handle thoughts about one square of the waffle at a time. And I thought that was really an interesting way to think about it, where he would individually fill the waffle squares and ours looks like a bowl of spaghetti. And I think that's like from a book, how women think. I forgot what it is. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I think they give that analogy too, of the waffle and the bowl of spaghetti for women, but it's so true.
Yeah, it is true. And, I think just knowing that about ourselves as women, and then the, different setup for men can encourage us to have greater empathy,
absolutely.
and communicating. I think too, a lot of times men are very, I would say, linear thinkers, and want to think through kind of all the options before proceeding with a decision. Now that, I guess level of intensity can be different from guy to guy. But I think with women, a lot of times we can be more easily swayed by emotion in our decisions. And again, it's not good or bad. It's different. And so appreciating how we've been created as women and that unique facet, I think, is really valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
Another kind of funny part about this, and these are a couple of nuggets that I pulled from a really good book called For Men Only or For Women Only. And this book, there's two different versions, whether you're a male or female, but you can basically read communication patterns and needs for the opposite gender.
That sounds helpful.
It's really helpful.
I should probably read that.
Yeah, and get a refresher. I know for me, I was like, I need to read this again, just even as I was writing some notes for this episode. But it's cool. One of the things that that the author mentioned in this book is that women also, because our brains are wired differently, we can sometimes have a thought just from our past, randomly pop up in our minds, because whether it's triggered by one of our senses or just sometimes that's just what our brains are doing. And we're like, I haven't thought about that in 10 years. Why is that coming to my mind? But that's just how women's brains are wired.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Super interesting. I think too, kind of the fourth big nugget we wanted to talk through with how women are unique is that we have a need for emotional security. And I think sometimes that can be at the expense of even financial security. Whereas from my perspective, I think for men, creating an environment where there is financial stability because they have such such a need for provision and protecting all of those pieces for friends, family. I think we as women, what we really value is emotional security, knowing that we can have that sense of deep heart connection with those that we're friends with or in relationship with.
Yeah, and we'll often need reassurances in that.
Yeah.
So that's often why, some women in relationship will say, well, are you sure? Are you sure you love me? They want to hear that reassurance if that hasn't been brought up in a while. So just a good tip there for the guys out there, that reassurance really brings comfort and security. And that's the reason why your wife or girlfriend may be asking you those things, not to be annoying. It's just, they need to hear that reassurance where you might need to hear that reassurance in a different way.
Yep. Through respect or even doing like a physical activity together, like playing a sport or going on a hike. It's just, different. Men's needs are different from women's. And so being aware of those is really cool, because then we can better connect and communicate with each other.
And I love this list. Like you started naming some of those key differences that men need respect. Oh man, how many times have I heard that? And there's some really great male pastors that I follow on Instagram, and they talk a lot about that men need that respect and honor. And we have to be careful as women, because we can often say something just in an instant that will tear down that respect need.
Yeah.
And it takes a bit for us to encourage them again to get to that point.
Yeah. And I think that's actually, I love how you brought that one up, Jamie, because that I feel like is paramount for men, like how we desire to be loved, cherished, called that we're beautiful. For men, one of their top needs is to feel respected. It's kind of like, as we feel loved, they need to feel respected. Another one is, this is again from the book For Women Only. It's men deep down, whether they're going to say it or not, there is a level of insecurity there. I feel like in the heart of every man, and they want to be in charge and in control of their environments. And that's just a unique wiring that I think we as women, that if we can be aware of that and how we communicate, we can have words that are more compassionate and tender towards men. So, it's not like kind of digging into a place that could already be maybe tender.
Right. Yeah.
So
no, and I mentioned just a few minutes ago about a few people I follow on Instagram. I would suggest following Redefined TV.
Oh, they're fantastic.
They're a young couple, and they really dig into some of these topics and differences and the importance of both, and even go into that. What we hear a lot is, well, why should I do this if he doesn't do that? Or why should I tell her this if she's not doing this? And really breaking down those barriers. So I would encourage you to check that out, because it would be very helpful on this journey of discovering. Yes,
for sure. We won't go through all of these characteristics, but, some, just to list them off here, that men are providers. They feel the burden to provide and make sure that there's plenty for communities around them, for their friends, for family. I think that's just, to be aware of that is really big. So like we'd mentioned earlier, we really desire emotional connection, whereas men, they want to know that they can provide and that they can be dependable. And I think go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah. And I think along those lines, they want to know, we know that they are providing, and they are dependable. So they want to know that we're depending on them. And sometimes that can be a little difficult for some women. In some ways, but it's really important. Yeah.
I think I was reading a really good book by John Eldredge called Fathered by God, where it's all about the masculine journey through 6 different phases of life. And one of the main questions that men often ask themselves is, do I have what it takes? And I think, and we can talk more about this later on in our episode, but, you know, we as women, any ways that we can encourage, you know, our brothers in Christ and different friends or fathers, you know, members of our family, like how we can be proactive to know the words that we're speaking that can edify and that can build up, I think only helps encourage men to more confidently answer that question that, yes, I do have what it takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are the, you know, unique facets of women that we wanted to talk through. And we wanted to shift gears now into talking through masculine and feminine traits. So how this is different than, like, you know, these core facets that all women have, you know, of wanting to be cherished, feel loved, be called beautiful, and have that emotional connection. These masculine and feminine traits, they can be a mix of different levels in all of us as women. So, I mean, I know for me, and we can list off some of these different traits here, but I think I kind of score stronger, maybe some masculine traits, maybe than some other women. And so, Jamie, do you want to share some of these traits?
And I would say I do as well, but some masculine traits might be independent. You know, you're independent, you're feeling like you can handle it. You've got control of things, dominant and strong, maybe more assertive, innovative or brave. You know, those more, I would say, battle ready type traits.
Like you're going to go out and conquer something.
You're conquering.
Yeah.
Whereas some feminine traits may be emotional or collaborative, more nurturing. Yeah. That motherly nurturing, vulnerable. You're able to show your vulnerability, caring and humble. Those are some of the more feminine traits. And I think, to Lorena's point, like, we may be on a spectrum, more masculine than feminine. You know, I definitely am more independent because I've had to be. I'm a single mom. And so that started, almost 15 years ago, a long time ago. And so our lives can often shape maybe some of those traits that we pick up. Yeah. But on the same side, I still am humble and I'm caring, and I want to be able to relinquish control and have a man do some things that I just don't feel like I want to do or can't do, or I'm not strong enough to do. So just that blend, so you can kind of see where maybe your personality, your life, where you stand, what are those key traits that you have? And on the same side, men can as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not every guy is a fix-it guy. He just isn't. There are men that have more feminine traits, and can bring that to the relationship. It can be a really nice balance. Yeah,
and I think what's beautiful about this idea, because honestly, as I was just writing some notes for this podcast, the Lord just showed me that, and He showed me that there is this unique blend, because if we are created in the image of God, then that could mean that God is both masculine and feminine. Right. Like, He has all of these traits. And so how beautiful is it that He could choose that unique distribution of, I'm going to give Lorena a wiring of like this kind of like dominance and this level of strength, but also this, wave of nurturing and like being very caring for people. It's just that unique, as Jamie was saying, a unique blend. And so that's why I wanted to separate the traits conversation out from the unique like facets and needs that women have, right? Because I think, because I think we can embrace that in areas that we're called into, how we interact with people, and even knowing that these traits can be modified in different seasons. I know for me, one of the big things was, when I started working in the workplace, I had to grow a thicker skin in a way. Like, I had to get stronger in some of these more dominant traits. And then when I started dating my boyfriend, I had to kind of kind of taper that a little bit.
Relinquish maybe some of those.
Yes, because being in a romantic relationship called for different things than what the workplace environment calls for. So I think even being aware of that dynamic too is really valuable.
That's so key. That's great.
Yeah. So that was the main portion of the episode today that we wanted to talk through. So yeah, the unique needs of a woman that we all have, and then some of the more different traits that we can have a unique blend of. To shift now to our health and hospitality tip, we wanted to kind of go on that theme of like, so if you're wanting to be asked out on a date, just putting yourself in that position to be seen and to be connected with. I just touched on this actually just a second ago, like, as men are wanting to seek someone that they can grow connection with, I think it's important for us to just know how we're portraying ourselves. I know for me, again, I was in this season before my boyfriend started pursuing me, of just like having it all together, doing everything on my own. Lorena can do it. I'm self-sufficient. And then when he, came in and started pursuing me, I had to learn, I actually need to make room for him to lead, and the thing, it's not all about me proving that I can do everything again or all the time. It's actually letting him have space to cover me.
Right. And that's good for both.
It is good for both. And that builds connection.
Right. Because, you can't have true intimacy if you cannot allow someone in, and allowing someone in is allowing them to help you.
Yeah.
Even though you can do it. Sure, I can do it. But wouldn't it be nice to have someone do it for you and realize that there's nothing wrong with that thought process?
Yeah.
That's refreshing.
Yeah.
Because I think oftentimes in our culture, we hear the opposite. Women don't need men.
Yeah.
And it takes a man and a woman to create life.
Yeah.
And so we need each other. And there are core things that we have to learn to let go of, or even offer up, and just let a man come forward and really shower that pursuit.
Yes.
Help us.
Yes.
And that could allow us, a moment of rest, or to completely tie back to what our core is. It could allow us to actually rest in, I'm beautiful, I'm cherished, I'm pursued, I'm wanted. It works. It's funny how those things work out.
Yeah, it's true. I'm also thinking of, there's a really pretty famous podcaster. Her name is Candace Owens. She is a star a lot on like Prager University and those really cool educational videos that are on YouTube. And I remember one of the podcasts that I listened to from her, and she's a strong, domineering woman. She's got her own podcast. I mean, she's on it. And she was saying how she's like, you know what, my favorite thing now and she was recently married. And so this is top of mind for her, but she's like, one of my favorite things now is out of my day is when my husband comes home from work and I make us dinner. And that just stuck with me because I think originally I would think, that's super weak. Like, cause that's just like homemaker kind of, and again, I need to wrestle with, allowing those thoughts to be changed. But I just think that really stuck out to me that she saw that as so valuable, and that he would probably also return that for her, so that there could be that mutual covering. So
that's so great.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's our tip for health and hospitality is just to let the pursuit happen. Yes. If you get asked out on a date, say yes. Yes. like if it's not like, super creepy or anything like that. Like we don't want to, but like give the guy a chance. We encourage that. So
we know you can do it, ladies, all on your own, but let's not. Yeah, let's not. Life is much better when we can ease up and allow people into our hearts and lives. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we do want to just quickly wrap up here with a question from the community. So I'll ask it, and then Jamie, if you'd like to respond. So the question that we got is, how have you seen masculine and feminine traits play out in the workplace specifically? And just kind of any recommendations there of discovering those different traits and how they play out.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of environments that I've been in where I felt like I had to behave like a man. And I think you referenced that just a bit ago. Like there's you had to grow a thicker skin is how you put it. And that may be the case, right? Like we have to look at it from the environment that I am in. What is my job role? Who am I reporting to? What does my team look like? But there is value for both. And that's something that I had to learn over time. And I actually learned that from men.
Okay.
Which is very refreshing.
Yeah, that's unique.
I early on was in some very difficult atmospheres. And I think I had built a bit of a chip on my shoulder that I didn't want to appear like I didn't know something, that I felt like if I said, I don't have time for that, or it's a no right now, that was weakness. And one of my supervisors later on in my career, actually not too many years ago, probably 6 years ago, shared with me, he's like, you know what? The workplace needs the softer side.
Yeah.
And there are things that you bring to the table that I just don't have. It's not part of my core. And that's why we make such a good team, is because I may come in ranting and raving, and then you come in behind me and encourage and put things into place, and you're task oriented, and you can really help implement. And that really helped me to see. And he actually said, why don't you take whatever chip that you've allowed to be built on your shoulder and just shake it off. You're going to go much further in life if you can just let that go. And man, it was a little hard to hear at the time, but then I realized, oh my gosh, he's so right. We often will think like, I have to behave like this. I have to be like this in the workplace, like a man in the workplace to get ahead. And ladies, that's just not accurate. And if it is in your workplace, I would dare say, move on to a different workplace. But one of the things that I found really valuable is understanding your traits. And there are some great personality tests that are available for people in the workplace. For where I am right now, we use what's called People Map.
Okay. And
that's a really quick test. It actually has been around since the 90s and has a 98% accuracy.
Oh, cool.
So you can have confidence in it. But it outlines whether you're a leader, people, task, or free spirit. And often you will be two. So I am a leader, free spirit. And there are definite traits that belong to those types. So you list your strength, it lists your strengths, and then it also gives you some insights into what's called your Achilles heels. Those things that you'll have to look out for. And the way this serves in a workplace is it's really important to have your entire team take this. It's also great in ministries where you work in groups, or even friendship circles, because you can see how someone receives information differently than you. You can learn more about their soft skills and your soft skills, and if you even have soft skills. So it's really important because it just gives you that 360 view of who am I working with? What is my landscape here? What are my Achilles heels? What are their Achilles heels? And how can we communicate this clearly to each other so we're aware of it, so we can help each other?
Yeah. And
this will serve you in the workplace, and it will also serve you in your friendships, and it will also serve you in romantic relationships. So it's great to find a personality tests like that. This one is called People Map. It's free online, and there's many others, but I would encourage you to consider that for yourself and others on your team.
Yeah, that's great, Jamie. Thanks for the response to that question. So yeah, I love that nice kind of wrap up to our episode today. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining and watching. Please stay tuned for our next episode, and we hope you have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Zveda podcast. Keep your questions coming so we can rise together. Visit Zveda.com to talk to us and join our community. That's Zveda.com. We'll see you next week.